There are 7 levels to speaking French, but knowing where you really stand is not easy because the official levels might tell you what grammar you know, but they don't tell you whether you can actually handle real life French. And after living and working in France myself, making every cringy mistake you can think of, even writing a bunch of books in French, I've mapped out these 7 true levels of French based on what you can actually do. Because French is not an all or nothing, it's a set of practical steps and every single one builds on the last. So in this video, I'm going to show you the exact timeline and goals for all 7 levels, what it takes to reach each one, and what's waiting for you at the very top. And it starts out a whole lot of fun at level 1.
Un café?
Ah, oui.
Du sucre?
Non.
You speak very good French.
Gracias.
At level 1, you're not really learning French, you're pretending to be French. And it's brilliant. You've got your handful of phrases, your oui, bonjour, merci, c'est la vie, and almost everyone has heard of these, of course. So you order a croissant, you do the little shrug, and then for about 10 seconds you feel like you've absolutely nailed it.
Bonjour mademoiselle, je porte lunettes soleil, je veux m'en venger, merci beaucoup, je oui oui baguette, bisous.
I mean, you're probably already at level 1, you just didn't know it had a name. But okay, I know what you're thinking, that's not real French, is it? And you're right, you can't actually do anything useful yet, you can't really ask a good question, you probably can't understand the answer. But the lovely part is, if you actually lean into this a little bit harder, read a cafe menu, watch a weather report with subtitles, words are going to start jumping out that you recognize. All sorts of words like température, climat, région. There are so many of these, and you'll realize you can often guess the meaning because, well, let's just say French and English crossed paths a long time ago and they left thousands of words behind to help us out. Very kind of them. And if you want to get to level 2, well, it's best you start noticing these, and that bit, well, it just takes about 5 minutes. But before we go any deeper, there's something worth knowing about how you move up these levels. It's not about forcing words into your head. It's about letting real French naturally sink in, getting used to French, if you like. Not textbook French, but the kind that people actually use in France, Canada, North Africa, and around the world. And the easiest way to feel that is to use stories, because for a language like French, stories are honestly one of the best ways in. And just to give you a little taste of what that feels like, I've put together a free short story in French just for you. It comes with audio, so you can read and listen along. You'll be able to pick up a surprising amount and not feel like your brain is melting. So if you're early stage in French and you'd like this free French story, scan the QR code on the screen, or you can click the link in the description below. And now French has your full attention. Suddenly you want to learn it properly. So what's waiting for you at level 2? Well, level 2 is where French stops being a fun costume and starts being something you can actually use out there in the real world. You've picked up loads of those familiar words. You can introduce yourself, ask simple questions, read signs. You also understand slow, clear French in a beginner podcast, for example, or a simple story with audio. It's got its hooks into you at this point. So now you can walk into a cafe and order un café s'il vous plaît. No pointing, no panic, and if you're traveling, you can buy a train ticket, check into a hotel, ask what time breakfast is, and actually catch the answer. I remember when I was at that stage, I was just happy that I could order food in Paris without being mocked by the Parisian waiters. Tiny victories, but they stop you feeling like a tourist all the time. And there's a nice prize waiting for you here. When you started, French spelling probably looked completely ridiculous. Take a word like beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup. Beaucoup.
Yeah, pretty weird. Where did half the letters disappear to? Because if you look at the spelling, B-E-A-U-C-O, I mean, really? But the more things you read with audio in your ears, the more that your brain starts spotting the patterns and matching the sounds to the spelling. So you realize that O always sounds like O in English. O, bureau, château. The French spelling actually is not that random. It's far more predictable, in fact, than English spelling.
Ce matin, je suis à Annecy, une petite ville dans les Alpes, en France.
And the great thing is, it doesn't take very long to develop this ability to read in French. For most people, a month or 2 of steady practice is more than enough to get you going. But so far, you're the one who's doing all the talking. Can you handle a real French person answering you at full speed?
J'ai toujours dit que l'équipe de France, c'était la chose la plus importante pour un joueur, donc c'est la chose la plus importante pour moi. Donc ça fait plaisir de revoir tous les copains, de revoir tout le monde et de revêtir le maillot bleu que je vais porter jeudi.
Oh dear, level 3 is where your eyes start outrunning your ears, and it's where nearly everybody gets very stuck. In fact, you'll probably spend longer here than at any other level so far. Months, not weeks, and that is normal. So on day one of my job in Paris, the manager took me on a little job tour, and the whole thing was in French. I blanked on the vast majority of whatever he was saying. It was tough. But somehow I managed to just catch enough French to be able to answer the questions that he asked me at the end of the interview. It was ridiculously audacious. It's the kind of thing you can only get away with as a 19-year-old. And he actually gave me the job. Now, don't get me wrong, by level 3, you can do quite a lot. You can talk about your day, you can tell little stories, you can make plans, write messages, hold short conversations. People understand you, you're feeling more confident. But then one day you overhear two French people talking to each other and you realize you haven't got a clue what they are saying. On paper, if you were to see it written down, you would understand nearly every word. But out loud, it all flies past in one long blur. Spoken French is just like that. Take a simple phrase that everyone knows, je ne sais pas. 4 sounds, je ne sais pas, I don't know, right? 4 clear words, but when it comes out of a real mouth, it's more like je sais pas or je sais pas. Like when you just put it spoken fast, it almost disappears. And we do this in English too, especially when we're being lazy. Think of how you say something like next door or particularly. It's like next door, particularly. Like we swallow all kinds of sounds in English, but I think that French can be a lot worse, and that's why level 3 is all about hearing real French over and over again. You honestly can't get enough of it. One of my favorite level 3 moments is when a French song suddenly stops sounding like some foreign sexy thing, and you still miss a lot of it, but now and then your brain will actually catch a whole little phrase. Évidemment sans succès. Evidently without success. You've got to love these smoky, sensual French songs. It's great ear training. Now, back to my job. It was at a youth hostel in Montmartre in the north of Paris. So I get the job somehow. And next thing I know, I'm working there and all these French guests start arriving, all talking at once, firing questions at me, wanting things. It was just nerve-wracking. And then at one point, these 2 guys come up to me and they ask me for des couvertures, blankets. And it's like, okay, you need blankets, but it's only 6 o'clock. Like, you can wait. Like, I'll bring you the blankets later, is what I thought in my head. So I said, okay, no problem. So I carry on serving the people who were standing at the front desk wanting something genuinely important. And then, 10, 15 minutes later, I disappear and I come back with 2 blankets and give them to these guys who are sitting in the kitchen area with 2 bowls of pasta that they've just cooked for themselves, which are now stone cold. And of course, they didn't ask for des couvertures, they asked for des couverts, which means cutlery, not blankets. I'd understood blankets, as I'd bought them the blankets, but they couldn't eat the pasta with the blankets, obviously. Now, that is a vocabulary issue, but I knew the difference between these 2 words. What happened was, because I was still struggling to keep up with everything I was hearing, and I wasn't used to hearing spoken French and processing it properly, I didn't catch it, I missed it, and that was by far the most embarrassing moment of my life in France. 25 years later, I still remember that moment. I remember the look on their face when they saw me turn out with these stupid blankets, because my French hadn't failed me, my ears had failed me. It's this multi-dimensional thing of vocabulary, listening, comprehension, and focus all at the same time that comes together to give you the ability to actually listen and understand in a foreign language. And this is where reading by itself is not enough. You also need to add in real world experience. You've got to get out there. You've got to listen to real people. You've got to speak to real people so that you can bring it all together into what becomes competency in a language. If you can just push through that sound wall, the cognitive load that comes with being overwhelmed and having to deal with all this stuff at once, well, that is where French suddenly starts sounding like French and becoming French. And this is great because this is level 4. And level 4 is where you stop needing help, because all those little crutches that you relied on in the beginning, they start disappearing. Movie subtitles, translating in your head, rehearsing what you say in a shop 3 times before you walk through the door. At level 4, all of that stuff begins to fall away. You just know it. You can have a proper conversation, you can improvise, you can keep going. Even when you get stuck, you can talk your way out of it. You have skills like paraphrasing. Now you are letting French itself, the language, teach you just by giving yourself enough exposure to it in real situations and you can handle it. Now, if you've been at this for about 6 months or so, this is where things really start opening up.
Salut, comment ça va? Ça fait longtemps!
Mais oui, ça fait un bail. Ça va bien et toi?
Ça va. Un peu fatiguée, mais ça va.
Now for me, this door swung open for me when I was in Paris because of someone I met called Luca. Now I was working in the hostel one afternoon, the same hostel, when this guy Luca walked past outside. He looked at me through the window, carried on, and then came back, stuck his head through the window and said, "Where are you from? Are you learning French?" It turns out that he was a professional dancer, as it happened, learning English for his work, and he needed someone to practice with. And I said, yeah, I'm learning English. No, I'm learning French. I'm getting my languages mixed up. So we started meeting 3 times a week for a language exchange. We'd spend an hour in French, an hour in English, no lesson plan, no textbook, just conversation. And I would just ask him over and over again, how do you say this? How do you say that? What does that mean? Someone said this to me in the street. I would write everything down, he would explain it to me. And it was the first time I could just sit and talk with someone who was patient enough to let me get everything wrong. And from one week to the next, I felt my confidence go through the roof. I wasn't learning French because I enjoyed studying. I was learning it because it felt amazing connecting with someone that I liked, a cool person. And that's when a huge, really life-changing lesson landed for me. Going abroad itself is not what makes you fluent. It is speaking that makes you fluent. You can live in Paris a whole year and learn almost nothing because nobody just hands you the language. You've got to go out and take it. But you are not in French Shangri-La just yet. There is a really crucial jump coming. And this is the one people dream about without even realizing it. It's level 5. It feels super comfortable here. And it takes a while to get to it. Most likely a couple of years rather than a couple of months, okay? By now, at level 5, you've got friends who you only ever speak French with. You catch yourself thinking in French in the shower. You watch a whole evening of TV and forgot that it was actually in French. And when you're on the road going literally anywhere, you just pop on any French podcast and you can understand it. As for the language coming out of your mouth, well, it's actually pretty French at this point. Without even thinking about it, you throw in all these little nothing words that somehow mean everything, like du coup, bah, genre, quoi.
We have really a lot of words that we use to talk about money, and it's very common to use them. So this shouldn't lose you now. If you hear someone says, t'as un peu de thune, t'as un peu de fric, t'as un peu de cash, t'as un peu de maille, t'as un peu de flouze, je suis complètement fauché, j'ai pas un rond.
You can even read a full French novel right now, and you should. And something really cool happens around now. See, for the longest time, French people heard your accent and switched straight to English to be helpful or out of pride. It's a tiny dagger in the heart every single time someone switches to English. But guess what? That stops happening at this stage. You answer in French, and because you're confident, well, they stay in French and the conversation carries on in French. They still know you're a foreigner, mind you. Level 5 is not fooling them, but for a language like French, this is as far as almost anybody ever needs to go. It's enough to travel, make real friends, and handle almost anything that life throws at you. If we're talking actual language levels here, this is a B2 on the CEFR, and it's a super important level to bear in mind, because once you get to this level, you can go take years off learning French and you won't forget it. B2 is the level where a language tends to stick for life, so it's very worth getting to this level if you possibly can. The only reason to go further is if you plan to actually live and work in French. And if I'm honest, this is about as far as I got in French. In Paris, French flooded my whole day. The hostel, my friend Luca, a French girlfriend who fixed my mistakes as we went. And I settled into a strong, comfortable level. Strong enough to live, to argue, to do everything I needed to do. And that felt like arriving. I felt like I've done this now. Funny thing though, once I started learning Spanish, French would sometimes sneak out instead. Languages are like that. But I know the burning question is still keeping everybody up at night. Can I ever stop sounding like the outsider, like the foreigner? Because behind the next door, French gets a whole lot bigger than just France. And it all starts with a humbling little shock. See, by this point, you've probably been learning French for quite a few years, and frankly, your French is pretty badass. You can hold fast conversations, say what you mean, talk your way out of most things, and then you meet someone from Quebec.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Maxime, je viens du Québec, puis aujourd'hui, je vais vous raconter une histoire de voyage.
Which you may or may not understand, maybe 60%, because, plot twist, the French you learned is only one French. It's spoken in more than 20 countries, and people don't all sound the same. Different accents, different vowels, different slang, different words. Ever heard French from Côte d'Ivoire?
There is no problem.
Il n'y a pas de problème.
I'm going to sleep.
Je vais dormir. Je vais sûrement.
Hurry up.
Dépêche-toi.
Nice. And it isn't just other countries. Even in Paris, they've got their own code, a slang called verlan, where they flip words back to front.
We start with a word like louche, which means kind of like strange, and you basically split that word in half. Now we have louche. Now we take those and flip them around and reattach them, and you have chelou.
Crazy, you would say it's zicray. Donc c'est fou becomes c'est ouf. And now we know that c'est ouf becomes a word that can be used for anything. It's obviously not the same to say c'est ouf and c'est ouf de faire ça.
Strange, but true. They do this a lot. At first, it all feels completely alien, but then one day, suddenly, it doesn't. Because you've stopped expecting French to sound only one way. That's the real jump at level 6, and here's what it lets you do. Put on a show from Montreal or a podcast from Dakar and just follow it. Sit down in a cafe anywhere from Brussels to Abidjan and you understand whoever's in front of you. 5 continents, dozens of countries, one set of ears. French stops being one country, it becomes a whole world that you can move through. It's pretty cool, but there's still one final leap. You understand French wherever you hear it, but making people forget you weren't born speaking it, well, that's level 7. And 7 is the strangest one of all because it's not about how you hear French anymore, it's how everyone else hears you. Now, at some point on this journey, someone will say this to you. Vous parlez un français impeccable. Your French is impeccable. And you will float home with that phrase because a Frenchman does not hand that out lightly. But here's the sting in it. Nobody has ever said that to another French person. Not once. Ever. Know who they have said it to?
En ce moment, vous passez un moment en France là qui est...
J'aimerais vous en parler.
Oui, assez MeToo. C'est intéressant parce que vous êtes un peu en retard.
Ah, les Français. Ça de très près.
Yeah, Jodie Foster made it. Very inspiring story, actually. So here is how you'll know when you really reach level 7.
Je viens de Hong Kong.
De Hong Kong.
Oui, mais j'habite à Londres. Non, je suis pas française. Non.
Vous avez un accent qui est... Même pas d'accent, vous êtes non, pas du tout.
Vraiment? Ah, merci.
Vous êtes français, je dis c'est vraiment...
Finally, French people stop treating you like someone who learned French. And if you had to crack a joke right now, you can be sure that they're laughing at the joke, not at the foreigner telling the joke. That's the summit. Not perfect French, but belonging. Now, I never quite reached this level myself. I got to a comfortable level 5, glimpses of level 6 maybe. But after leaving Paris, I never used French very much. It's just the direction that my life took. I went back to London, I got interested in other languages. But the funny thing is, 25 years later, I hardly ever speak French, but I still understand almost everything and can still speak very well. And that's the truth about these top levels. And this is the level 5 we mentioned earlier, getting to that B2 or upper intermediate level. They're not something you study for, they're a life that you choose. And that's why so few people really ever get there. Not because they're not capable, it's just that they never needed to. And nor do you, honestly. You don't need to get to level 6 or 7. But almost anything you'd ever want to do with French, level 5 is a sensible target. It's more than enough. And if you feel fired up to learn French, but you don't want to waste time making 1,000 mistakes, well, you need to watch this video next, where I show you exactly how I would learn French step by step if I had to start over from scratch. Go and check it out.